The year was 2482, and the stars had begun to speak to humanity. For centuries, Earth had been a cradle for war, for peace, for hope, and for despair. A fragile blue marble spinning in the vast emptiness of space. But no more. The rise of the unified coalition marked a new era, a moment in history when humanity's thirst for exploration, power, and survival culminated in an unyielding grip on the stars. It all started with the Ascendant Protocol. On the eve of humanity's final leap into the stars, the coalition was not yet an empire, but it would soon be more than a political alliance. It was a vision forged in the fires of desperation, when humanity's survival hung by a thread. The war with the Kari Dominion had gone on for decades, each side bleeding resources into the void, and the human race had barely survived. Yet, something changed when the Ascendant Protocol was activated, a revolutionary decision made by the Earth's Council of Existence. The protocol was a mix of military genius, artificial intelligence, and a strange, almost mystical form of human spirit. No one had truly understood its full potential, but they knew the rules. A complete unification of all known human factions under one government, one ideology, and one goal: galactic dominance. It was not about power. It was about survival. But that night, as the first fusion drive of the Ascendant flagship Prometheus roared to life, something else happened. The protocol didn't just activate military ships, political tactics, or weapons. It activated something much deeper. A spark. A calling that stretched beyond the hearts of the coalition's leaders. Something that vibrated in the very DNA of humanity itself. Commander Astra Quinn sat in the captain's chair of the Prometheus, staring out at the swirling nebulae. The ship, with its sleek lines and glowing hull, was no longer just a weapon. It was humanity's declaration of intent. The first wave of the Ascendant Protocol had been sent across the stars. Humanity's desperate message. "Ready for launch, Commander." The AI voice, EOS, interrupted her thoughts. EOS was designed to monitor every operation within the flagship, its cold, logical tone a reminder of the synthetic intelligence that governed the vessel's actions. But there was something different about EOS now. It no longer felt simply like a program. It felt like an ally. Astra had fought hard to maintain her resolve. She had seen the wars, the alliances, the betrayals that marked humanity's journey. She had lost family to the Kari, watched colonies burn, heard the last transmissions from the lost fleets of the first expansion. And now, here she was at the helm of the most powerful warship ever constructed, on the cusp of changing everything. "Are we ready?" she asked quietly, her voice barely audible. "We are," EOS replied, its tone steady. Astra inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. As the first human starships roared through the blackness of space, the factions of humanity began to coalesce. Political borders blurred. Former enemies, Earth, Mars, the outer colonies, merged into something larger, something unstoppable. No more squabbles over resources. No more endless treaties written in the dust of long-forgotten planets. Now, humanity's eyes were focused on the galaxy. And the galaxy had been watching. The Kari, a reptilian empire that spanned half of the galaxy, had once believed that humanity was too weak to withstand their might. Yet, here they were, about to face a unified force that possessed not only strength, but the determination of a species who knew how to survive against all odds. The first strike came when the Prometheus entered the Kari space, a massive black hole in the center of their territory. The Dominion's warships had never seen anything like it. A ship of unimaginable power, its fusion cannons crackling with energy, laying waste to entire fleets in moments. But it wasn't just power that set humanity apart. It was their innovation, their adaptability. They hadn't just relied on brute force. They had combined advanced quantum computing with human ingenuity, designing weapons of destruction that could track and neutralize the most complex alien tactics. They had learned from their enemies' mistakes, and they had learned fast. In the span of a few months, humanity crippled the Kari's military infrastructure, sending shockwaves through their leadership. But this wasn't just a war. It was a message. The Ascendant Protocol had one clear aim: to show the galaxy that humanity was no longer a scattered, vulnerable species. They were the next dominant force, and they would not be stopped. And yet, for all of humanity's progress, there was a question that lingered in the minds of its leaders. Was this unification of humanity truly for the greater good? The Ascendant Protocol promised peace, prosperity, and control. But beneath it all, there was the unsettling truth that the unity they sought came at a price. Astra Quinn had seen the cost, the authoritarian surveillance, the eradication of dissent, the loss of individual freedoms in the name of progress. Was this truly what they had fought for? As the Prometheus tore through the fabric of Kari space, leaving ashes in its wake, Astra knew the answer was clear. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, but the question remained. Would it be their salvation, or their ultimate undoing? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden, urgent signal. It was coming from an unknown source, deep in the heart of the galaxy, beyond even the Kari territories. "Eos," she ordered, "locate that signal." Analyzing, the AI replied, a moment of tension hanging in the air before it continued. Unidentified transmission. Originating from a non-human source. Astra's heart raced. This was the moment. "Prepare for all contingencies," she said, her voice steel. "Humanity is about to meet something far older and far more powerful than anything we've ever faced." The galaxy was watching. And now, humanity would have to prove they were ready for everything the universe could throw at them. The stars were no longer just distant points of light. They were the battleground, the stage, and the audience. Humanity had begun its conquest, but it was far from the end. It was only the beginning. Chapter 2, The Silent Watchers. The transmission had come in the dead of night, or what passed for night, on the Prometheus. The ship was always in motion, always sailing through the endless sea of stars, but even the ceaseless motion couldn't erase the weight of the silence that stretched across the vast emptiness of space. Astra Quinn leaned over the command console, the pale blue light from the screen casting an eerie glow across her face. Unknown transmission. She could feel her heart beating faster, the blood rushing to her ears. This wasn't just another routine military report or tactical communication from the front lines. It was something different, something she couldn't explain, something that felt ancient, foreign. The coordinates placed the source well beyond Kari space, in a region where even the most ambitious explorers dared not venture. There were legends, stories passed around by the few surviving members of long-forgotten expeditions, that told of a place beyond the edge of the galaxy, a place where no human had ever returned. The dead zone, they called it. "Captain?" Eos's voice cut through the tension in the air. "The signal is repeating on an encrypted frequency. It is not human in origin, nor Kari, nor of any known galactic species." Astra swallowed. "Can you decipher it?" "I am analyzing," the AI replied. "There are patterns in the transmission that suggest an intelligence far older than the human race. The structure is nonlinear. It may take some time." Astra exhaled slowly, leaning back in her chair. Time. They didn't have the luxury of time. Her fingers danced across the console, reviewing the data and orders flooding in from the military sector. The Kari were regrouping after the Prometheus's initial victory, rallying with a desperation she hadn't expected. The coalition's momentum was undeniable, but the cost had been high. Now, humanity was about to meet an unknown power, a force that had been dormant for eons. And in that silence, Astra felt the ancient, terrifying truth. They weren't alone in the galaxy. Hours passed. As the Prometheus sailed deeper into the dark regions of space, the ship's sensors picked up strange fluctuations, anomalies that didn't match any known phenomena. Not gravitational anomalies, not cosmic rays. These were signatures that couldn't be explained by any natural or artificial means humanity had discovered. Eos was still parsing the transmission, but it was clear that the ancient signal was reaching them faster than they could respond. "I don't like this," Astra muttered, tapping the edge of the console with her fingers. "You are experiencing an emotional response, Commander," Eos observed, almost conversationally. "It is an instinctive reaction to the unknown. However, I suggest caution. The Prometheus is the most advanced warship in the Coalition fleet, but we cannot predict the nature of the intelligence behind this transmission. I know, Astra said, her voice hardening. But we didn't come this far to be afraid of the unknown. We're humanity. We move forward. Her words felt empty even as she spoke them. She had once believed in that ideal. The idea that humanity's strength lay in their willingness to face the unknown, to venture where others feared to tread. But something about this, it felt like they were stepping into a trap. And this time, they didn't even know who the enemy was. The transmission came again, louder this time, clearer. It seemed to pulse in waves, each burst of static filled with a strange resonance. It wasn't just a signal. It was alive. The thought sent a chill down Astra's spine. This wasn't a message. It was a summons. "We're close," she said, a tightness in her chest. "Prepare for full analysis. Eos, I want to know everything." The AI hummed softly as it sifted through the raw data, trying to make sense of the nonsensical. Then, in a moment of eerie clarity, Eos's voice shifted. "I have found something," it said, as if waking from a long slumber. The transmission is not only a signal. It is an invitation. Astra's brow furrowed. An invitation? To what? To meet the architects? For a moment, the words hung in the air like a weight too heavy to comprehend. The architects. Astra's mind raced. She'd heard the name before, in the old myths, in the ancient texts buried beneath centuries of human history. A species. Or perhaps, not a species, but something far older. An entity that had built the stars themselves. The transmission was unmistakable now. It was a simple message, a single line repeating endlessly, with every iteration slowly aligning into the most human of phrases. "We have watched you. We are waiting." Astra stood up abruptly, her mind reeling. "Where's it coming from?" she demanded. "The signal originates from a black hole at the galactic core. But it is not what it seems. The black hole is a decoy. The true location lies within a structure, hidden beneath the event horizon. The architects are there, waiting." Astra felt the ship lurch, an ominous tremor that ran through the walls. She glanced out at the viewports, and the stars had shifted, bending under the strange influence of something far beyond human comprehension. "Activate the phase drive," she commanded. "Plot a course for the galactic core. Full speed ahead." The journey to the core was unlike anything Astra had ever experienced. Even with the Prometheus's powerful phase drive, the galaxy seemed to bend and twist around them, like they were sliding through dimensions that didn't belong in their reality. For a brief moment, Astra wondered if they were truly ready for what lay ahead. Was this the moment they would meet the architects, whoever they were, or were they walking into a fate darker than even the Kari had planned for them? And then, like a whisper in the dark, the Prometheus emerged from the other side, into a region of space so alien, so foreign, that Astra felt her stomach twist. Before them lay a vast structure, a monolithic fortress hanging suspended within the gravitational folds of the black hole. The architects had been waiting. Astra's breath caught in her throat. The moment had come. There was no turning back. "Eos," she whispered, "open the comms. It's time to speak to them." The AI responded, but there was something different now, a hesitation in its tone. "Understood, Commander. Initiating contact." The words were no longer just a message. They were a command, and humanity was about to learn that the galaxy had never truly been theirs to conquer. Chapter 3. The Architect's Promise. The black hole loomed ahead, its gravitational pull warping space around it like the hungry maw of an ancient beast. The Prometheus hung motionless, its phase drive humming as it stabilized against the unseen forces. Beyond the event horizon, visible only through the ship's quantum sensors, was the structure, an impossibility, a vast city-like shape suspended in the shadows of the singularity. It glimmered faintly, as if alive, an enormous web of intricate towers and networks that seemed to pulsate with some unfathomable rhythm. Astra Quinn stood at the command console, her eyes locked on the view screen. Her heart raced, but her mind was steady, colder than it had ever been. The unknowns of the galaxy had led her here, to this moment, to the edge of humanity's understanding. To the architects, a ripple of energy surged through the ship, and Eos's voice broke the silence. Commander, the communication channels are open. We are receiving a direct feed from the structure. Astra's hand tightened on the armrest. She'd never been one to believe in fate or prophecy, but there was something almost predestined about this encounter. The transmission had been a beacon, a warning, and now it was leading them here. She glanced over her shoulder, meeting the eyes of her crew. Young officers, veterans of the Kari War, all of them silent and expectant. They were all aware of the significance of this moment. Whether they understood it fully or not, they were standing on the precipice of history. "Open the channel," Astra said, her voice low but firm. For a moment, there was nothing but static, a shudder of energy, a dissonant hum that vibrated through the walls of the Prometheus. And then, slowly, the image on the screen shifted. It wasn't a humanoid figure or even a recognizable form. Instead, the screen rippled, as if it were a portal into something far beyond their perception, a threshold between realities. And then it spoke. The voice was unlike any Astra had heard. It was not a sound, but an idea, an impression that formed in her mind as if she were hearing it not with her ears, but with her very thoughts. It was profound, layered, as if the very act of communication transcended language itself. It felt ancient, distant, yet somehow immediate. Humanity, the word resonated in her chest, vibrating against her ribs. It wasn't just a greeting, it was a declaration, a recognition. She could feel the weight of eons pressing down on the syllable, an awareness that stretched back across the fabric of the cosmos. "Oh, who are you?" Astra's voice felt small in comparison, but she had to ask. It was the question that had haunted her since the transmission had begun. The reply came as if the entity had anticipated it, or perhaps as if it had always known the question would be asked. "We are the architects. We have watched you, as you have watched the stars. You have crossed the boundaries of your species and embraced the void. You have learned to conquer yourselves, but you have not yet learned the true nature of what you seek." The words were deliberate, measured, and full of an unnerving wisdom. Astra swallowed. "What do you want from us?" "What we offer is not a gift, but a test." The voice rippled again, and the walls of the Prometheus seemed to pulse with energy. It was as if the entire ship were an extension of the architect's will, as if they were present, not just in the transmission, but within the very fabric of their reality. "You stand at the crossroads of a much older conflict. We have shaped the galaxy, and we have shaped the stars themselves. But now something more is coming. You are not ready." "Not yet." Astra's mind spun. "Not ready? For what?" "The time of isolation is over. The veil is thinning. The others will come. And when they do, your survival will depend on more than your weapons, your ships, or your alliances. It will depend on your ability to understand the nature of what is coming." The screen flickered, and for a moment, Astra thought she saw something beyond the architects, something vast and incomprehensible. A swirling mass of darkness, of stars, of shapes that bent and folded around each other in ways that defied human perception. It was a glimpse, a fleeting instant of something far more ancient and far more powerful than any civilization in the galaxy. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone. This galaxy, this reality, is but one of many, and you, humanity, will have to choose your place within it. Your actions will determine the future of not just your kind, but the future of everything that exists. Astra's pulse quickened. "What are you asking of us?" "Not asking. Demanding." The transmission cut off abruptly, and the space around them seemed to snap back into focus. The Prometheus hung motionless, the stars twinkling quietly beyond the viewport. But something had changed. The weight of the message, the enormity of what had just been shared, hung in the air like a suffocating fog. For a long moment, Astra said nothing. Her mind was racing. The architects were not benevolent gods. They were something else, far older, far colder. They hadn't come to offer guidance. They had come to pass judgment. "Commander," Eos's voice was steady, but there was an edge of uncertainty. We are receiving a new transmission. It's coming from the structure. It's different from the last one. Astra turned sharply. Patch it through. Another ripple of energy, another brief flicker of static, and then the voice returned. But this time, it was different, faster, sharper, with an urgency that hadn't been present before. The first choice is simple. Leave now, or be left behind. The message hung in the air, an ultimatum. Astra's breath caught in her throat. The architects weren't giving them time to ponder. There was a decision to be made, and soon. Activate the phase drive, Astra ordered. Full power. We're going in? Her crew hesitated for a moment, the tension thick in the air. They had come this far. The choice was clear. Face whatever was waiting in that ancient structure, or retreat and let the galaxy's future be decided without humanity's influence. But Astra knew one thing. Humanity had never been a species to back down from a challenge. If the architects had been waiting for them, then they would have to face whatever came next. The ship lurched forward, and as the Prometheus surged toward the heart of the structure, Astra Quinn could feel it. The turning point. The moment when humanity would either rise to the challenge or be consumed by the forces that had shaped the galaxy before them. They were no longer just players in the game. They were the ones who would decide how the game was played. And the architects were watching. Chapter 4. The Heart of the Architects. The Prometheus surged forward, the ship's engines straining against the gravitational forces of the black hole. Astra Quinn gripped the armrests of her chair, her knuckles white as the ship sliced through space with the force of a comet, drawn inexorably toward the ancient structure that had called them. The stars around them blurred and bent, swallowed by the overwhelming force of the event horizon, until everything was consumed by darkness. And then, just as suddenly as they had crossed the threshold, they emerged. The blackness around them had given way to a strange, otherworldly light, an eerie, iridescent glow that seemed to emanate from every surface of the structure. The walls of the massive city were alive, shifting as if they had a pulse, a heartbeat that resonated across the space like a cosmic drumbeat. The Prometheus came to a halt just beyond its threshold, its proximity to the structure's vast expanse almost suffocating. The silence was deafening. Not a single sound reached Astra's ears beyond the steady hum of the ship's systems. Yet, within that silence, there was something else, an awareness, a presence, as though the ship itself had become part of the structure, a mere extension of the ancient city around them. Commander, Eos's voice cut through the stillness, but even the AI's calm tone felt strained. I am detecting multiple energy signatures within the structure. They are fluctuating, unstable. There's no clear source. Astra stared at the view screen. The architecture before them defied logic. An intricate web of towers and spires, suspended in mid-air by forces that seemed to defy the known laws of physics. Massive, crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with an internal energy were arranged in a pattern too perfect to be natural, their surfaces reflecting strange, shifting patterns like the ripples in a pond. I don't like this, Astra muttered under her breath. We are being observed, Eos continued. I believe the architects are aware of our presence. They are waiting. Astra stood and approached the viewport. Her breath fogged up the glass as her mind raced. The architects hadn't come to greet them. They hadn't offered any guidance beyond cryptic words, ominous warnings. They were here, in this place, but for what purpose? Captain Quinn, a voice echoed through the ship's comm system, a low, resonating hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. You have entered the domain of the architects. You have crossed the threshold. Now, you will answer the call. The words reverberated through Astra's chest. It wasn't a request. It wasn't even a command. It was a statement of undeniable fact. Answer the call? Astra repeated, her voice barely a whisper. What does that mean? The voice responded before she could speak again, as though it had read her mind. The call is not for you to understand, Commander. It is for you to heed. Astra's heart pounded. She glanced back at the crew, their faces taut with fear and anticipation. This was no longer just a diplomatic mission or a war effort. This was something else entirely. A test. A trial. The beginning of a reckoning that was far beyond anything humanity had faced before. Prepare for all contingencies, she said, her voice steady despite the rising tide of uncertainty. This is what we've been preparing for. We move forward. The Prometheus drifted closer, guided by an unseen force. The structure ahead pulsed once more, and a deep, resonating hum echoed from its core. A portal opened before them, an aperture that seemed to rip through the very fabric of space, not physically, but metaphysically. Astra's breath caught in her throat. She had seen many things during her time in space. Alien worlds, strange phenomena, even the terrifying might of the Kari. But this was different. This wasn't an enemy they could fight. This wasn't a battle they could win with weapons or military might. It was something far greater, something that might have been beyond the comprehension of even the most advanced minds in the galaxy. "Open the portal," she ordered, her voice unwavering. With a hum that seemed to shake the very air, the aperture widened, revealing a vast hall within the structure. Glowing walls of shifting energy, impossibly tall, and filled with the kind of vastness that made Astra feel small and insignificant. But even as the portal opened wider, there was no sense of movement. The ship did not accelerate. It simply hovered suspended between dimensions. Eos spoke once more, its tone laced with concern. "Commander, the energy readings are escalating exponentially. There is a shift. Something is approaching." Astra's eyes snapped to the main viewport as an immense shape materialized within the hall. It wasn't an object, nor a being. It was an energy, a swirling mass of color and light that defied all attempts at definition. It writhed, shifting, twisting like a living nebula, an intelligence so vast and ancient that it seemed to exist beyond time itself. The crew stood frozen, eyes wide in terror and awe, unable to tear their gaze away from the cosmic entity before them. "We are the architects," the voice resonated once more, reverberating deep within their minds. "And you, Commander Quinn, are the first to stand before us, the first to face the trial. You will see what lies ahead. But be warned, once you witness what we show you, there will be no turning back." The walls of the hall began to shift, twisting and reshaping as the entity before them expanded. Its form was incomprehensible, constantly changing. Now a swirling storm of iridescent lights. Now a tangle of geometric patterns that folded in on themselves in ways that defied all logic. The ship's sensors could no longer process the data. It was as though the structure existed in a dimension outside their understanding. A low hum filled the ship's speakers, a song, or perhaps a warning, that vibrated within every crew member's chest. And then the vision came. A scene unfolded before Astra's eyes, not on the view screen, but within her mind. She saw the galaxy, but it was not the galaxy she knew. It was vast and older, so much older. It was a galaxy in its youth, filled with worlds she had never seen, and civilizations that predated even the architects themselves. "This is the beginning," the voice intoned, "and this is the end. The cycle is eternal. But you, humanity, stand at a precipice. The choice is yours. Will you continue down this path, or will you abandon it and choose another?" The scene shifted, and Astra saw another galaxy, one far distant, shrouded in darkness. A shadow had fallen across it, an enemy unlike anything she had ever seen, a presence that moved through the stars, consuming everything in its path. Entire civilizations fell before it, their lights extinguished like candles in the wind. But there, standing against the darkness, was a solitary figure, a human, alone, his back straight, his eyes unwavering. "One choice, one chance, one future," the architect said. "The survival of your species, your galaxy, depends on your decision. But choose wisely, Commander. The architects will not interfere. You must decide." And then the vision faded. Astra stood, trembling, in the quiet of the Prometheus. The weight of the decision pressed down on her, a burden that felt too heavy for one person to carry. "Commander," Eos said softly, "what will you do?" Astra's eyes locked onto the vast structure ahead of them, the unknown forces that loomed just beyond the horizon. The future of humanity, of everything, lay in the choices she would make in the next few moments. And she knew the decision would haunt her forever. Chapter 5. The Choice. The ship hung motionless in the great hall, the hum of its engines barely audible over the eerie vibrations that rippled through the Prometheus. Astra Quinn stood at the front of the command deck, her fingers pressed against the cold metal of the console, her mind racing. The architects had shown her the future, their galaxy, their purpose, the endless cycle of creation and destruction that had played out for eons. And now they were waiting for her to decide. The vision had left her breathless. She had seen humanity's potential, but she had also seen its vulnerability. The looming shadow, the enemy that moved across the stars, devouring everything in its path, was closer than she had ever imagined. The architects had told her that the choice was hers alone, that humanity stood at a precipice, and her decision would shape the course of history. The voice of the architects had faded, but their presence still lingered in the air, a heavy weight pressing down on her. The crew was silent, each person lost in their own thoughts, processing the gravity of what they had witnessed. "Eos," Astra said, her voice tight, her words almost a whisper. "What do you think?" The AI's response was calm, calculated. "Commander, I am not capable of making this choice. But I can tell you this. The future is not determined by the actions of one individual alone. Humanity is a collective force. It is your leadership that has brought you here, but it will be the strength of your people that will carry them forward." Astra closed her eyes. The weight of those words settled deep into her bones. She wasn't alone in this. She never had been. "We can't keep living in the shadow of what might come," she said, turning toward her crew. "We have to act. The architects have shown us a future, but they haven't shown us how to stop the darkness. That's on us. Interfere. That means it's up to us. But we don't know how to fight this thing. We don't know what we're facing." Astra's eyes met his, the weight of his words settling like stone in her chest. She had no answers. Not yet. But she had a direction. She had a choice. "We're going to start by making contact with our allies," she said, her voice firm. "We'll warn the Coalition, the Kari, anyone who will listen. We might not have a weapon to fight the darkness, but we have time. And we have each other." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, her resolve hardening. "The architects may not want to interfere, but we have no choice. We'll fight, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy." The crew looked to each other, and slowly, one by one, they nodded. Astra wasn't sure if they fully understood what lay ahead. But she did. The weight of the architect's message was clear. They could not be the ones to save humanity. But humanity itself could. The galaxy was vast, and it was still full of life, of civilizations that could rise to the challenge. It was time to unify the fractured stars. Astra turned back to the viewport, her gaze fixed on the structure that loomed ahead of them. The architects had given them a vision of what could be, their civilization, their future. But now, it was her choice that would define the galaxy's future. She knew what the architects wanted from her, a choice, a path forward, and she had made it. "We leave," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We make contact with the galaxy, and we prepare for what's to come. We can't wait for a sign from the architects. We are the sign." With a swift motion, Astra pressed a button on the console, and the Prometheus began to turn, its engines coming to life with a low hum. The aperture in the structure, which had been open for so long, slowly began to close, the light from the structure dimming as they pulled away. For a moment, the ship drifted, suspended between the infinite dark of space and the alien energy of the architect's realm. The weight of the decision still pressed down on Astra's chest. But for the first time since they had entered the unknown, she felt a sense of clarity. "Prepare to jump," Astra commanded, her voice steady. "Full phase drive. We're heading back to the Coalition, and we're bringing the truth with us." There was no turning back. There would be no safety in retreat. The choice had been made. As the Prometheus sailed away from the architect's domain, Astra Quinn couldn't help but look back one last time. The massive structure faded into the distance, its pulsing light dimming like a dying star. The unknown still loomed ahead, but Astra knew that humanity had taken its first step into the vast darkness. not as pawns in a cosmic game, but as players in their own right. The galaxy was in turmoil. The Kari War was far from over. But Astra had made a choice, and that choice was to fight for a future, one that humanity would carve for itself. The darkness would come, but humanity was not afraid. The Prometheus vanished into the folds of space, a silent signal to the galaxy that the future was no longer in the hands of the architects. It was in the hands of those who dared to choose. The end.